And go. Well, this is part 4 of the Warhammer 40k spoiler videos. This is Brian Giles of Brian Giles MTG, and here we go. Next up on our list is Shadow in the Warp. 1 red, 1 green, 1 colorless for an enchantment. As the first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 colorless less to cast. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, Shadow in the Warp deals 2 damage to that player. Fun enchantment. Hoo-ha. Next up is Clamavus. 1 green, 4 colorless for a 3/3 human Tyranid Artificer with Proclamator Hailer. Each creature you control gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on it. That could get out of hand quickly in a Tyranid deck. That's just nasty. Next up is Aberrant. 1 green, 1 colorless, and X colorless for a 0/0 Tyranid mutant with Ravenous and Trample. It has Heavy Power Hammer. Whenever Aberrant deals combat damage to a player, destroy target artifact or enchantment that player controls. And again, it's another creature with X in the casting cost, and we've talked a lot about that. So that can be very fun. So next up is Atalan Jackal. 1 red, 1 green, 1 colorless for a 2/2 human Tyranid Scout with Trample and Haste. Whenever Atalan Jackal deals combat damage to a player, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Nice, tasty, trample-y creature, and it's a good target to put extra +1/+1 counters on it. So, hoo-ha for that. Next up is our first vehicle of these spoilers, and I'm sure in some of the other commander decks we will see a lot more. This is Goliath Truck. 4 colorless for a 4/4 artifact vehicle with stowage. Whenever Goliath Truck attacks, put 2 +1/+1 counters on another target attacking creature, and you crew it for 2. Hoo-ha! More +1/+1 counters. Next up is what I believe to be a reprint, if I'm not mistaken. But, this is just a powerful reprint to have in this set and in this deck. Aetherize. 1 blue and 3 colorless for an instant read. Return all attacking creatures to their owner's hand. Oh, look, I'm going to attack with a whole bunch of creatures. And a lot of them are tokens. Aetherize. Boom. They're all back to your hand. All your little tokens go away. Bye-bye. Next up is Bred for the Hunt. 1 green, 1 blue, and 1 colorless for an enchantment. Reads whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Good little thing to have in a Tyranid deck. And coming up, we have a lot of reprints of lands and stuff. Some of you players that have been in the game for a while will recognize some of these. First up is Cave of Temptation, a land that reads tap to add 1 colorless mana. 1 colorless and tap, add 1 mana of any color. 4 colorless, tap it, sacrifice a Cave of Temptation, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature, activate only as a sorcery. Tyranid deck. More +1/+1 counters. Next up is Cinderglade. A mountain forest. Tap to add green or red. Actually, red or green. Cinderglade enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. So, kind of a slow land type thing. Next up is Cultivate. Again, a staple in mana ramping. 1 green and 2 for a sorcery that reads: search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards, put one into the battlefield tapped and the other in your hand. Then shuffle. Next up is Death's Presence. 1 green, 5 colorless for an enchantment that reads: whenever a creature you control dies, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the power of the creature that died. More +1/+1 counters. Next up is Explore. Yet another reprint and the staple in mana ramping. For 1 green and 1, a sorcery that reads: you may play an additional land this turn and draw a card. Next up is Farseek. 1 green and 1 for sorcery that reads: search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain card. Put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Okay. Frontier Bivouac. Frontier Bivouac enters the battlefield tapped. Tap it to add green, blue, or red. Again, we talked about the Tiller engine in Dominator United. Here's another thing to, a target for your Tiller engine. So if you want to put your Tiller engine in your Tyranid deck. Yeah, that's a good reason to put Tiller engine in your Tyranid deck. Because there's a lot of these cards that come into these land cards that come into the battlefield tap. Next up is Game Trail. As Game Trail enters the battlefield, you reveal a mountain or forest card from your hand. If you don't, Game Trail enters the battlefield tap it to add red or green. So, one of these reveal lands. Next up is a something I didn't expect to see, in this. But Herald's Horn. 3 colors for an artifact that reads as Herald's Horn enters the battlefield. Choose a creature type. Creature spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 colorless less to cast. Creature spells. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. So yeah, more creature draw, more less casting cost. Didn't expect to see Herald's Horn in here, but it's a fine addition to this deck, for certain. Next up is Hull Breach. 1 red, 1 green for a sorcery that reads: choose 1, destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or destroy target artifact and target enchantment. Choice, and bigger choice. Hoo-ha! There's nothing not to like about that card. Next up is another, I think it's another reprint, if I'm not mistaken. Icon of Ancestry. 3 colors for an artifact that reads: as Icon of Ancestry enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. 3 colorless, tap. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card of the chosen type from among them. Put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Well, this is a Tyranid deck, and this is a Tyranid's Matter deck, so this just makes your creatures more beefy, lets you search for your creatures. That's just a nice thing to have. Next up is Inspiring Call. I think this is also another reprint. 1 green, 2 colorless. For an instant, it reads: draw a card for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Those creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. That's just messed up. Next up is New Horizons. Now, I know I've seen this card before, so I believe this is also a reprint. New Horizons is 1 green, 2 colorless for an enchantment aura, enchant land. When New Horizons enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Enchanted land has tap to add 2 mana of any one color. So, yeah, more land ramp, more +1/+1 counters. Yahoo! Next up is Opal Palace, another decent reprint. It's a land that says tap to add 1 colorless, or 1 colorless tap, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. You spend this mana, cast your commander, enters the battlefield with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it equal to the number of times it's been cast from the command zone this game. Well, there's a not only a good card for this deck, but also for something like your Ragavan deck. Any deck that's got that thing can get out of hand real quickly. Next up is Temple of Abandon, a land that reads Temple of Abandon enters the battlefield tapped. When Temple of Abandon enters the battlefield, scry 1, tap to add red or green. Temple of Mastery, Temple enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, scry 1. So a lot of these scry lands. And the Temple of Epiphany enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, scry 1, add blue or red. So the scry lands. Path of Ancestry. It's a land, enters the battlefield tapped. Tap it to add 1 mana of your commander's color identity. When that mana is spent to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, scry 1. Rampant Growth, another staple ramp spell. 1 green, 1 colorless for a sorcerer. Research your library for basic land card. Put that land onto the battlefield tapped. Next up is Rugged Highlands. We're a lot of us are well aware. Enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, gain a life, tap it to add red or green. Next up is Starstorm. 2 red and X colorless. Starstorm deals X damage to each creature with cycling a 3. Cycling discard, draw a card. 3 colors, discard, and draw a card. So a cycling instant removal spell. So hoo-haw. Thornwood Falls, yet another of the gain life lands, which is enters the battlefield tapped. Enters the battlefield, gain a life, tap it to add green or blue. And Unclaimed Territory, another reprint land, as Unclaimed Territory enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, tap it to add 1 colorless, or tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type. So that's it for those. We've made it under the 15-minute mark. I am super happy with this. Let's keep it trucking. We're going to have some more tomorrow. I probably won't start posting until late because I'm expecting my computer to come in. It's probably going to be in the afternoon, and I'm going to make sure that gets all set up before I start recording and uploading the videos. So, hoo-ha. We're going to have it's going to come at you fast and furious. Have a wonderful day and a good night.